Hello, and welcome to another episode of Set-4-Life Conversations, where we help you get your mind right and your money right by discussing life strategies for the everyday person. I'm your host, Thomas Lacoma, and each episode will spend some time with financial advisor, pastor, and motivational speaker, published author, and former college athlete, George Thompson, as he shares with us wisdom that you can put into practice today. In today's episode, George and I talk about instilling life's lessons in our kids. George shares some great stories about his parents and childhood and how those lessons have translated into what he teaches his kids today. Hey George, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing awesome.
So it's good to see you. I've been thinking about a couple of things. We've done a couple of these shows, and a lot of times we end up talking about our kids. And I know you, like me, one thing we have in common is that we just love being fathers. So I know in previous episodes you talked a little bit about how you don't let your kids buy sodas or juice from restaurants, but instead you take that money to invest it for them. You also talked about some of the ways in which your father made sure you and your siblings were prepared for success in life. So this got me thinking. I was like, of all the unique ways that I've heard you talk about growing up and now raising your kids, might be good to do an episode on getting just into your mindset on children and how to help them grow into productive adults. So let's start with how you grew up. Can you
Great.
give us just a little background about the kind of household you grew up in and the type of parenting you experienced?
Good. But I just want to say, first of all, thank you this is a great topic. And I'm asked this. And not only just being a father, but then also helping, when your kids get in a basketball league or your kids are in karate or ballet or anything, they're in some activity, you actually become what's called a community father. And you start teaching other people certain things. Like even when I teach my kids sharing, like when we go to mentioning names now, Costco, we buy things for our kids. I would say, hey, take an extra one in case somebody else don't have. We'll have one.
Mm,
Try and teach my kids sharing, and that's one of the things. My father and mother taught a lot, and this is the thing: they taught by action, not as much by telling me certain things. They did tell me certain things, but it's by actions. So the things that we'll be walking through today will also not only show you how people were doing this, but then also how the actions that they took. Like me sitting around telling my kids, don't spend money, don't do this, but then I actually do the same things I'm teaching them. So I want to teach how to have financially responsible children. And it had a lot to do with my childhood and growing up. Um, uh, to answer your question directly, my mother we used to go to the grocery store together, and I'll never forget. And I'm picking it up right now and have it in my hand. A list. We only shop from the list. So when we went in places, we would walk in, and then my mom would say, "Hey, we want to get this type of candy with this type of thing like this." She'd say, "Is it on the list?" Man, I was maybe 14, 15 years old before I figured out, man, this is fixed. This only has food out here that's good or things to eat. And then I learned that's actually what people need to do right now is make sure they're operating on a list. And in your personal finances, what that is that's a budget. And they used to do that. So my mother just was very instrumental. And one of the most instrumental things, if I were to say why I'm even in the financial industry today, is I used to go shopping with my mother, and I used to watch the list that she would shop. And I'd walk into this store, and I'm giving a shout out to Northwest Foods and Piggly Wiggly, and those are grocery stores in the Midwest in Minnesota. I know out here they have the Ralphs and the other ones, and then the South they have the Publix, but it's called Piggly Wiggly and Hy-Vee. So we used to go to the store, and I'd watch my mother shop, and I'd watch the list and everything that she would buy. And then I learned that I would start to, and then she'd say, there's an extra dollar, and then I'd sometimes buy candy. Then after a while, I said, let me stop buying candy because I want to go to this tournament during the summer. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just not keep the money. I'm going to buy some of the things that we buy. Then I go down the store and then I started doing something called dented cans. I'm going to repeat it 3 times. Dented cans, dented cans. Find dented cans and then be able to get discounts on stuff. And I found out what was on sale and when and the flow when we did things. And then, in your refrigerator, when you're in the old school, in the kitchen, you have right above the refrigerator, you have that little pantry area up above.
Hmm.
I would start storing food that was, that I could keep for a while or in different areas. Or I buy it one week or I buy it and then I would keep the change. And I just start keeping the change and I'd be investing. Then one time I needed to go to this tournament on the weekend. And my mom, I remember she gave me $20. And I'll tell you how groceries have changed now over the time. And I went down the store and just got some milk. And I sat on the table. She looked in the bag and said, "Where's all the rest of the groceries?" And I opened up that pantry and pulled down everything else that was on the list. She turns and looks at me, and the $20 bill is just right up here in my pocket. And she's saying, this guy has figured out the flow of groceries. And now we do classes actually. And I teach classes on how to buy stuff by unit price and everything now and
Hmm.
how to shop. I show people how to do that. And now we're showing people how to shop healthy. But the roots of that started by learning to go shopping with my mother and learning how the price flow of things worked at an early age. And that's the same thing I teach now with my kids. I'm doing things like when we buy groceries, I look at them, I say, "How much is the price this right now?" I said, "By the way, this is going to be $108." And they're like shocked that we can do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or they'll see how we do that. I said, "Well, hold on to the person." I said, "Wait, don't, before we put the tax on, just let's do that." And the discounts. So I'm teaching them math. I'm teaching them how to
Hmm.
shop, but then I'm also teaching them humility. Like, in other words,
Yeah.
like this is what we get. Like they know now they just can't buy anything at any time. So you're
Yeah.
teaching them stewardship and how to properly manage finances. So we're just not buying impulse things.
Yeah.
Last thing about it, and then I'll switch it back over to you, is this. The biggest thing that my mother actually taught that now I'm looking at investing right now and everything that we're doing with what's going on in the markets is she taught me how to delay gratification. In other words, you have to
Mm.
invest something now. Remember, I was putting all, well, I'm sorry, I put it up here. Up there in that pantry, I was buying something then that I was going to use later. And that's
Yeah.
actually how that's actually, that's one of my goals is to teach my children that same way and teach all of you is that the ability to delay gratification. There's things that you
Yeah.
want to buy today. And I'm not giving out stock recommendations. I'm just making a point is I want people to learn to buy Nike stock instead. If you want the shoes to buy the stock and then instead of buying the $250 shoes, the really expensive shoes, buying the ones that are cheaper and then buying the stock. And then later on, the stock appreciates when the shoes
Hmm.
depreciate. So you're learning what an
Exactly.
asset is and how to grow and doing that. And the roots always started with that. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, now you got me warmed up. You got me warmed up. You got
Well,
it. There's a
as you were
technique.
talking, you
Go
were
ahead.
actually making so many memories come back for me. My
Yeah.
mother, there was a couple of things. So my mother, when she sent us to the store, she always said, "Make sure you count the change." And what that instilled in us was that every little bit of it matters. So
Mhm.
like you don't just take the change. Nowadays we do debit cards and everything, so you don't have like coins. But you'd give your dollar bill and they would give it back to you, but you had to do the math because you need to know what your change was going to be. And
Exactly.
then similar to your mother, my mother had at some point 6 kids that we were in the household.
Right.
And so I had the privilege of often being the one that she went with to the grocery store, and it was amazing to see how strategic she was.
Right.
She was operating off this list,
Right.
because she had to make everything stretch. So
Right.
she knew exactly which store would have which thing, and then where to get something based on what the deal was. So
Right.
we had like a circuit that we went on. We
Oh, my
didn't
wife
get
does that.
everything. It wasn't this thing of like, okay, we're just going to get everything in one place,
Right.
because she knew, okay, for those certain things, I can get in bulk in this place.
Right.
And this was in Botswana, so there wasn't a lot of different stores to pick from, but she still figured that out. And I love watching. My wife is very similar now. She's very strategic about where she gets what. I don't ever do the grocery shopping because she knows, all the tricks already.
Right.
Uh, when she sends me, I just ask her, where should I go for that? you
Right.
know?
But that has not changed one bit. My wife's like, boom, it's like a little circle. We're going to
Yeah.
Target. We're going to Ralph. We're going to thing. And then at Costco. It's like we have now you know what, even to be old school, we know we type these in on our phones, but we still carry the little paper around with the list. So that way I can
I
say,
do better
hey,
with a paper.
I do better with the paper. And it's just that, and it's just a great reminder for these kids. So when they get ready to say something, you're like,
Yeah.
hey, it ain't on the list. And then I'm telling you, I was 15 years old before I figured out tomorrow, before we leave the house, let me put this down. Where's the list? Oh, it's already written. I'm like, put
Yeah.
a butterfinger on there. Just put a butterfinger on there. So that's how you grow. But that what you taught, what your mother taught you. So I do also a class called Building Generational Wealth. And you
Mm,
want to pass money, but if you pass knowledge, it's even better. So that's how you actually teach that. Another
yeah.
thing that my dad used to do, and then I'm repeating so much of what my parents said. My dad used to do this so much to us. He would always say, he'd always look shocked and say, "Why are you buying that high?" And then say the name. Like instead of saying, "Hey, why are you buying them high Fruit Loops?" You know, the name brand when you go to the cereal, he go down the cereal aisle. So why buy them Fruit Loops when you can get the Fruit O's and then they're only $2? You know, like, why are you buying
Yeah.
Cheerios when you can buy Oreos and they're
Yeah.
only? Why are you buying that high? And that's what he'd always start with
Mhm.
that. We were like, like, cause see, there are people that do all that pride by saying, "I won't buy generic or the name brand," and I know I'm naming name brands now, but I'm saying like, if I'll buy Kirkland, I'll buy Costco brand, I buy off brand
Yeah.
because I don't have that pride of trying to buy something of a name brand when they're essentially exactly the same.
Yeah.
And we also do that in our class. I took pictures of them side by side and it showed like the price. They're almost in the same box. And there's a little piece of me that thinks they're made in the same plant. I think that they're just changing the box.
And they're just getting some extra money off the people who don't wanna buy the brand, right?
Really think that. I mean, I know
Yeah.
someone's going to send in a message. No, it's not. But I'm like, I think they are. So they're just boxing, or at night they're just boxing them there at night,
Yeah.
and doing that. But that is very important that people feel fine about teaching that. And I'm learning all that from my parents. As you know, I don't buy my children drinks and things, as you said earlier. And one of the things I think that is important is I initially did buy them drinks at restaurants, but then one time I spilled them in my car. And I saw the cost of it and the cost of cleaning the car, one, but also just the cost of drinks. You know, if you go to if you go to a restaurant and you're buying $3 drinks and $2.50 and you're spending that money. So as you know, me and my kids went to Panda Express, and we went and they were lined up, and they were younger. They were younger. They were around 5 years old, five and three or four, 5 and 4, and they got the greens, and then they got the chicken, they got the food, and then at the end of the line at Panda, they had this big chest full of juices. I'll never forget it. And then Alexander got his little chest out, said, "Daddy, we want a drink." And then I turned and looked at him. And I said, "Oh, he's just saying that." Then his brother goes like this, "Georgie, yeah." So I do my very best Fred Sanford. I grab my chest and say, "I'm coming to join you." Now it's packed. They could go to Panda because they got all their spelling words right. We'd been
Mhm.
going through at school. They got all their spelling words. I asked where they wanted to go. They said Panda, and then they wanted to remind me of that. And then my little daughter goes like this, "Yeah, we want a drink." And then I told them, I said, "We came here to eat, not to drink. If you want something to drink, then put all the food back and we'll go over to 7-Eleven and get you a drink." They said, "No, no, no, we want to eat." But you see, it wasn't we didn't have the money. It's the principle of showing them that we're number one, we're delaying gratification and we're not wasting money. If I thought just being real simple, if I'm just going to use $10, if those drinks would have been 250 and we would have bought four of them and we would have done that 10, and you would have done that five, and then you would have done that 5 times, during the week, you would have done that simply 5 times. That would have been $50 a week that people spend on drinks at places. And then that 50 times 4 weeks in a month, that's That's literally $200.
$200.
$200 times 10 months. 'Cause I'm gonna escalate it to 12 and higher. That's $2,000 plus the other 2 months. That's about $2,400. That same $2,400 could be put into a mutual fund or into an investment for them to do something. So what we have is we go get people a prosperity jar. Did I say it 3 times yet? A prosperity jar, where you go and put your money into this, what you usually get a jar, and everything that I'm going to say waste money, but money that's not put conducive to building wealth or conducive to doing things, then you start putting it in the jar. So, like if you make your own coffee, you do this, but you want to start with at least 10% of your income, at least that you
Hmm.
should be saving. Now, should you be saving in your 401k? Should you be saving in a saving check? Yes, you should. But we're starting with a prosperity jar if you're not, and you're saying,
Yeah.
I don't have the money. The
And
word,
the prosperity jar is something that kids can see too. If you have
right,
kids that you're trying to model for, they can see that this is a physical representation of the money that we are redirecting for
right.
more productive use.
Right, and that I'm a big fan of the jars because there's going to be they should also have 3 jars. One is for what they're going to give. You want to teach your children how to give. So now I'm talking now. I'm tapping on your shoulder now because that's actually where you learn to give at a young age. So you should be teaching your children to give. Like now, my daughter, excuse me, my daughter has a savings account that she saves now because she wants to help. She sees people that are homeless. We live in Los Angeles. She sees people that are homeless. She says, Daddy, Mommy, I want to help. And I said, great, let's look at how we're going to help. And then we can do this. And then she wants to do this to buy clothes and to
Mm,
do things. And see how beautiful that is?
yeah.
She doesn't want to give away. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but she wants to give away clothes, but then also buy clothes so someone can get brand new clothes. So then
Mm,
there's what you give, and the second area is what you're going to say best. Remember, that's the word saving. This is all from in the wealth cycle, as you know.
mhm.
Save vesting is saving and investing. We don't just save; we have to have the money invested. So then
Yeah.
there's save vesting account, and the third is consumption, meaning just what they want to spend. Right now, if you give a kid $10 or $20, they spend it. Now they're
Yeah.
saying, wait a minute, I can only spend a third of it. So the minute you give somebody this money, so if you give them $12, they know, okay, well, I'm gonna spend four. Do you
Hmm.
see that right off the bat?
Already split
Because
up.
if
Yeah.
I'm raising my hand now. If you're watching, if you're listening, just listening to me, I'm raising my hand because I watch all the NFL when they show athletes when they say they're broke, they end up getting a $3 million, let's say, signing bonus or something, and they spend $3 million, and then their agent calls them and goes, "Yeah, you have to pay your agent fee," and then they go, "By the way, you have to pay a third of it, a half in taxes." They're like, "What? I didn't," and then they get a loan against it, and then they're already in the next season already. So
Mm,
it's from people not understanding and doing it. But the first is that we learn to put God first.
yeah. Excellent. And if you are just joining us today, or if you're new, welcome to the show. We release new episodes every Friday morning. So if you have a topic that you'd like us to cover on finances, productivity, biblical stewardship, or even today's topic, raising kids, if anything else that captures your imagination as you're listening to us, look for the link in the show notes where you can drop us a voice message, and we listen to everyone because that it's important for us to be responsive to what is on your minds. So now I think we kind of started into this. We have a good picture of how you grew up. And I'm always fascinated by the life lessons that people take from their upbringing and how they apply them to their lives. So you kind of talked about this a little bit. Can you talk about maybe some of the key themes that came out of your upbringing that you've kind of kept with you today and that have helped you be successful, not just in money, but just in life in general as well?
Right. That's a great question. So I want to say one of the first themes is my parents were like hard workers. Like my mother like worked hard, and also my parents were separated at a very young age. But my dad didn't live very far away from us, and so he instilled those a lot of things in me. So one of them is, I would say the number one is discipline. We were just very disciplined. And I don't know if people are losing that today or in different areas, but like just very disciplined. I think that's, if you asked me what is probably the biggest reason for investing success, business success, and everything is I'm very disciplined. I do the same thing. And I know what is successful and I'm willing to do it. And my parents used to always talk to me a certain way so that we would do it. And it just or my dad was just saying we're not doing that. Like, so one of the things that I do that I translate to my children is I never say to them, we cannot afford anything.
Mm.
I watch how I communicate to them. So like one example, I never say to them, we can't afford anything. What I say to my children is, that's not how we allocate our resources.
Mm.
So what happens is they'll come and like one day I came to pick up my son at school. I'm sorry, I shouldn't mention names, but I'm going to do it because I want them to, Alexander, I want to pick him to school. I walk into school. He looks at me and goes, Daddy, you look awesome today. You look great. I said, you know what? Let me sit down. This is going to be real good. So I'd already dropped this kid off. He didn't say a word to me about what I had on. I've been dressed every day when I come. I come to work. I dress pretty. I think I look nice. I love vest on. Anyway, I said, really? And he goes, hey, Dad, do you know where Target is? I said, son, yes, I know where Target is. Costco and the grocery store. That's somewhere we go pretty much every week or every 2 weeks. He said, can we go by there on the way home? I want to know if they have Pokemon cards. I said, son, we don't need to go by there. I'm 100% sure they have it, and they probably have a whole aisle. And he goes, well, I just want to go by and see how they work. And I said, well, son, we're going to talk about that. But I said, let's look at your homework. Let's look how things are going. And then maybe at the end of the week, that's something we can do. We can look at if that's how we're going to allocate our resources. What I just teach him 3 things right now. First thing was what? Delayed gratification.
Mm.
And then two though, I acknowledged the fact he complimented me. I said, I came home, hey, honey, I look great today. Alexander said, I look great. And also spend the time to sit down and talk to him about how you allocate your resources.
Mm.
Because we're not running I'm not running room service. So you have to
Mm.
understand that. And also there's rewards and consequences. Did you hear me say rewards and consequences? Because
Mhm.
that's how Set-4-Life is built.
Mhm.
So if he wants Pokemon cards, the spelling words need to be right. We need to be doing stuff. We need to go to
Mhm.
karate, basketball, and do our things because just like we have awards. So it's not military. It's not mean. I sat down with him. I listened to him, and then we begin to work together. So that's like a process that we go through.
Mhm.
But those are the same things I'm learning from my parents, and that I also want to pass on to my children. And then you got to add 2.0s to them. You know what I mean? Like my parents. I'm not saying we're rich, poor, or anything like this, but they didn't have the resources to do a lot of things
Mhm.
that we have right now. But they've set me up to where they've helped me and over time, so we can be able to do these things.
I think that's why it's important to talk in terms of principles,
Right.
because especially, I have my oldest is 15, so we've been parenting for a little bit.
Right.
And one of the things when she was first born, everybody had advice and input of how you should do this, to do that. And what we realized very quickly is that each parenting situation is different and
Right.
each child is different. So it's very important to lean in on the principles so that you can then adjust it to the personality of the child or to the situation. I think that's what, if you're listening to this call today, what we're trying to do is to get you to think of some principles that you can then apply with your children.
Right.
Um, it's also important. I know, you actually made me think of something that happened with my son last night, similar to the allocating resources thing. So he's wanted to buy some new headphones
Hmm.
for himself because he wants to be portable when he has his tablet with him. So he has his own money. Like I do the same thing. They all now manage a set of funds when they get Christmas gifts or birthday gifts.
Yep.
We have it all set up. I have a little, actually, like a one of those bank bags, the
Yep.
little ones where you keep the money and change. Each one has one. It's their little bank account. We have to allocate the funds as they come out. So he had some of his money that's allocated to spending that he wanted to use towards these headphones. So it's like, Dad, can you sign into your Amazon account and get this headphones? So I was upstairs, so he
Right.
went in and he found it on Amazon on his computer. He had it all up open for me. So I
Right.
come downstairs and it's $18 for these
Gotcha. Gotcha.
headphones. So I'm about to put into my account and purchase it for him with his
Did he tell
card.
you? Did he tell you look awesome? Did he tell you look handsome? Okay, all right.
No, no, and this, he didn't need to convince me because because we've gone through enough
Right,
of the process of looking how he's allocated his funds. He already gave his tithe. He had already set aside. He's trying to save up for a computer, so he has to
right.
save up $500 this year.
Wow.
So he's put aside money for that. So this was really he knew that he had that money. So his sister, who was sitting across, now she's the one who is tight with her money. Like
Right.
she knows every dollar, what is happening with it. She finds every deal. She hears me saying that this thing is 18. She's like, $18 for headphones. And I said, what are they supposed to cost? And she was like, I showed him some that were $12. Why is he getting the $18 ones? And so then I realized that he had changed the color on Amazon. The
Right,
blue ones are worth 18 and the black ones are 12.
right.
So when he came downstairs, I said, Andy, you don't need to pay what is it, $6 for a color, you
Right,
know? And he agreed. It wasn't a big sell. Like he knows he wanted the functionality.
right,
So that was like a small way of looking at how money can just kind of like slip out if you're not paying attention.
right,
And so listening to that exchange between all of them, like my daughter who is always looking for the deals, telling him, is that the wisest way? We can get the same outcome for $6 less.
right,
And then him being open to it and saying, hey, yeah, we could do that.
right.
Was actually pretty cool to watch.
That is awesome because first of all, your daughter, I'm putting on my hand to give her a high five. Um, that's really good stewardship. She didn't say that's not how we allocate our resources, but that's actually what she said without saying that. And do you see what you're doing? The Lacoma household doesn't waste money. So then people know that. Like so that you just continue to walk through that. Like I told that story about Panda, but now my kids don't even ask for drinks.
Mm,
Like they don't even do that. Later on, if we go down to do another one of these and we go into investments and everything, but another thing is I drive them to the properties we purchase for
mm,
them. They
yeah.
walk around in them. And then online, let us know if you'd like to see some of these. But we call it the Wealth Academy, where we teach kids finances. And you start at any age. And I remember taking them to a property, and I had a note for all of the tenants that we're going to be doing inspection. So I brought the letter. And I said, hey, walk up here and hand them to them. And they're like, oh, that's the kids and everything. And then they can start to see how
Mm,
things work and how they pay and how I talk to them. And we're not slumlords. We take care of these properties. We treat them properly. We talk to them. We
mm,
show them, and that they'll start to see this because when they get to college and they see this is how, and they see things later on, they'll see how legacies are built. They're seeing it.
yeah.
They're seeing the actions actually while you're doing them, and that is a great example you use with your with your
Yeah,
children.
I think that's an important principle to pull out of what we're talking about. The whole idea of let them see rather than just, talking to them about it.
Right.
And I also like the other point that you brought up around 2.0, because it's important to look at how the world is different from when you were raised
Right.
and then adjust accordingly. Like, for
Right.
example, technology is, prevalent right now. And one of the things I did was I was looking when I was thinking about how to help the kids learn about the budgeting and so on. I realized that a lot of the shopping they want to do, especially my older one, is online, and
Right.
so it'd be good for them to have some sort of debit card type thing. But I didn't want to get them a bank account, and I found a program called Greenlight that actually uh, deals with this particular situation. So as a parent, they each got their own little debit card, but I completely control how the funds get
Right.
allocated to that. And so it was actually a good learning experience because my older daughter is the opposite of my middle daughter. She just what she sees, she want to buy it right there, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so when she first got her card, we started seeing all these Uber Eats stuff, get
Oh,
ordered and so on. But she quickly learned because she went through quite a bit of money quickly, and it was a good lesson to learn early on when the stakes are lower. And now she's much more strategic about how she's allocating those funds because she realized, especially this is for adults as well, when something is a debit card versus the actual cash, you don't feel that purchase as much
yeah.
emotionally.
You spend 10 to 20% more. Right.
Exactly. So it's good because I'm trying to give them the skills to use the principles in the context of the world that we're in right now.
Right. No, that's very good. And you see how you have them have a debit card, and we're talking about 2.0. You've said this already. Like my mother, we used to go there and we would pay with cash. Now you said you bought on Amazon. You have to use a debit card or a credit card in order to purchase anything on there. So
Mhm.
that's why we have to learn how to do things newer. And what kids are asking for now is all technologically based. It's not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're not like before. You like no one's like, I don't know. Do people still do the big wheels? Like we're like, we want a big wheel, you know, and things.
Mhm.
So, but we have to have them go outside and do things. But everything they're buying is all that or even app related. So you want to learn to
Yeah.
control those as well. So yeah, that's really good. That's good.
So let's drill in a little bit. You started to talk about it. I'm really interested in getting to kind of sneak peek into how you and your wife are approaching the raising of the children. So maybe where a lot of these connections happen. You've talked a little bit about it, but I know there's one thing you always bring up when we're talking is this affirmation that you had your kids learn.
All right.
And I wanted you to share that with us and kind of break down why each one of those points was important for you to instill in them.
Right. So what we do is I remember I was at a conference one time and I was learning some things about training people and also I learned when I also had people and I was training reps, financial advisors, different areas, and also when I used to work in the cellular telephone industry. One of the things is I found out to be really successful, you had to have four elements, and these are all just been taught through me through time. That four elements, and the first is be on time. Do you know how many people don't show up places on time? And
Mm,
I actually show up 15 to 20 minutes early because I meet people. If I could tell you all the times that I've shown up places early and then went up and spoke to the speaker and got all the information in his personal kind of, and then while he was setting
mm,
up, this started in college. I used to show up early. I used to work audio visual and set up for people. And then I would learn how to talk to him. One guy was an options trader. And I talked to him about all these things and got his phone number and later started just calling him and learning about all kinds of things by being on time. So first is
mm,
be on time. The second, my dad says all the time, finish what you start. If you
mm,
start something, finish it. By the way, there's a really large club. It's called the Starters Club. I'm what? I'm going to pay off my debt. I'm going to get a college degree. I'm going to do this. And like, everyone starts. And then there's a smaller club. It's called the Finishers Club. That's people that
mm,
finish things. So finish what you start. Third, do what you say you're going to do.
mm,
This has helped me so much, even as a pastor, just in all the areas. If Bishop Ball one time called me, I want you to go over this house and pray. I went over there. They said, hey, wait, we have a whole bunch of financial questions. We want to answer this and that. I didn't say I'm not going to answer them. I said, I came over here to pray for you, and I'm
mm,
going to do that. Now, if you'd like to talk about finance, I will come back again, or we can do that. But the person was very ill, and they want in doing it. I said, let's pray today. And I
mm,
said, and then I closed the door, came right back, and I said, okay, well, I can talk about that, but I want to do what we say we're going to do in
mhm,
life. If you say you're going to do something, do exactly what you say you're going to do. Don't do half of it. Give people exactly what you said you're going to do. And then number four is say please and thank you.
mm,
We don't do that as much as I think we should, or at least I,
yeah.
I didn't. But now we do is say please and thank you. Then I'm going to say this about that number four again. Say please and thank you. Be humble. You see, I didn't say humble. I said humble because the H is silent. Because let's start off by listening to people. We're always start
Mm,
off by talking. So these four principles, I have my kids
mhm.
and I teach them to say that because I just want them to. I
Hey,
teach them that so they can.
earlier you showed me. Can you play the recording? Let's try to record that on here. I want people to hear your kids saying that.
Okay, so I actually did this right here. Let's see if you can hear. Hopefully, you can hear. Let me pull this up. But my kids, here we go. Four rules of being successful. All right, hey team. What's the four rules of being successful in life?
Be on time, finish what you start, do what you say you're gonna do, and say please and thank you. And kiss your daddy. Yeah.
I love that. And kiss your daddy.
Yeah, they always add number. You see these? See that? Well, yeah.
Kids.
So, yeah. So they say that but I know something though. They actually do. That is very humbling as a father, and it's one of the greatest honors is being a parent. Is when they say, "Kiss your daddy," and that's how we greet when we come in. That's how we greet when we come in now, in doing that. But those principles, I just don't know how someone cannot be successful if they show up on time, if they finish what they start. And then if you do what you say you're going to do and say please and thank you. I'm going to ask everyone right now just to take an inventory of the I'm going to say the last week, but just take an inventory right now of your life and what you're doing and say, am I on time? And then just give me a percentage. Like I'm on time 80% of the time. Like you guys, I'm late about twice a year, like when it's on things, like very rarely, or I communicate with the people. Now I'm doing so many Zoom calls. I'm like, I tell my staff, and you'll see me talking to someone. I'll say, we have a meeting and it's 10 minutes before the meeting ends. I'll say, I have another meeting that starts in 10 minutes. But anyway, I'll tell my sisters, can you let them know that I'm still on another call right now? Because you want to be respectful of people's time. Very disrespectful is doing that. When I show up for a video shoot or when I show up to do anything, I show up early. So then so I let the people that are checking the equipment and the sound and all the production to let them know I'm there early. There's nothing crazier than if you have a 1 o'clock shoot and you show up at 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like you show up at 12 and get everything, get the lay of the land, make sure everything's loaded. You know what I mean? Like you just check everything. It's just so much more relaxing being on time. If I show up late everywhere, my heart rate would be so much higher. And then take an inventory of that. Finish what you start. Say, what are your goals that you set? And then you're still going to achieve them. Even in the midst of all of what we're going through right now, look at how the opportunities to finish what you start are. And then third, do what you say you're going to do. What did you tell people you were going to do? And are you doing it? You ever heard of under promise, over deliver? That's a great thing. Is say what you're going to do and even exceed that. And the last is just say, hey, you do that. Like right now with the, all this going on, if you go to a restaurant, talk to people, say please to them, and then thank everybody. There's so much going on and things right now. I even send out emails and thanking people, or even we had a meeting. Hey, I want to thank you for your time. We had a really good meeting today. And then people, because everyone's so rushed around right now. So take an inventory of what percentage you're doing to all these, and then try to raise them to the next level. Also, if you have the book, The Wealth Cycle, it says that we're at different levels: struggling and sinking, steady, solid, surplus, service. See where you are in these four. How are you doing with being on time? Are you struggling? Are you steady? Are you solid? Are you surplus? That means you're doing that. Or are you service where you need to be up here teaching it, doing it? How are you where you finish what you start? Are you struggling? Like find out where you are on that area in which dimension you're in, and then and then also do what you say you're going to do. One more thing about why you want to have these on these levels is and then say please and thank you. One of the reasons why you want to take an inventory yourself is that sometimes we start thinking about what other people are doing. Nobody else is on time. Don't worry about what time other people are showing up. Don't worry about what other people said they were going to do and what they didn't do. And I'm not talking about the people I'm looking around, not talking about people in your house. I'm just talking about, because now people understand. I'm saying you do it, because what you do is you're beginning to change the culture. See, I'm building a culture in our family. Like, in other words, like we always have affirmations. Like our kids say this, I'll say, like, whenever they get in a disagreement, I'm like, okay, Grace, hit Georgie with 3 affirmations. Okay, you're awesome. You're a great brother. You know what I mean? And then, so whenever they do that, now hug each other. They're like, so now they know not to come with me, but nothing. No. So you see what I'm doing? I'm building a culture.
Yeah.
Last thing, I'm gonna kick it right back to you. If you know the best coaches, I'm talking about football, basketball, any sport, the best coaches. This goes for sports and anything else. You know why the players say they get the best out of every player, and why they really love them. And then you bring up Last Dance if you want to. Michael Jordan, you bring up this. The best coaches, what they do is they coach each person individually. They don't coach. They don't treat everybody the same. You just said your children are all different.
Yeah.
Is that I speak to each one of my children differently, because they understand everyone differently, but we're
Yeah.
all going up together, and it's a cultural issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, Before we continue, I just want to let you guys know that if you have a question that you would like George to answer, it can be about anything, like I said earlier, finances, relationships, getting things done. There's a couple of ways to get your questions to us. Click the link in the show notes of this episode where you can leave us your question as a voice recording. You can do it right from your phone and we'll get it directly. So it's really easy. The second is follow George on Facebook. That's really the best way to get in touch with him, and I'll have the link for that in the show notes as well. You can also hit me up on my social media locations. I am TZ Lukoma everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If anybody's curious what the Z stands for, it stands for Zabuna, which is my middle name. My family's from Uganda, so that's where that comes from. So anyway, just to kind of start to wrap this up, but we've talked a little bit about the importance of discipline, the importance of instilling principles through action, the importance of those four areas that you talked about in terms of the kids. I think if we kind of tie that back into the current times, there's a lot going up where we're having to explain things to our kids with what's going on around us. So I was just really interested how you are helping your kids understand what is happening in this strange season that we're in with COVID-19 and some of the changes that have had to happen in their lives because of the situation.
Right. No, I think that's very important to do that and to keep communicating with your kids and not and acting like nothing's wrong is not a solution. And talking to your kids is important. And in the same manner, also talking to them about complete stewardship, meaning time, their talent and their skill that you're developing, and also treasure your finances. So make sure we're always working on all three of those at all times.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And I think in our household, one of the things that we've done is we don't shield our kids from the news necessarily. We filter, meaning we take the key messages that are in there and kind of talk to them at the level that they would understand. So my 9-year-old would understand it differently from the way my 15-year-old would understand it. And my wife does an excellent job of that. I listen to her sometimes when she's talking to the kids about what a particular thing means. We don't have any question off the table. I know the way I was brought up, there were certain things you didn't talk to your parents about.
All
It
right.
was like there was like kid conversations and adult conversations. That's one of the 2.0s that we've done in our
Yeah.
household where, especially when in Sundays when we're at that dinner table, that's the conversation time where anybody can bring up anything. We usually have like a topic. The other, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about device usage and how it had gone up because everybody was home and not doing anything else.
Right.
And then my wife actually got each kid to do an inventory of themselves in the coming week to see where they could adjust their device time.
Right.
Because we weren't going to impose rules on them. We wanted them to self-manage first. And
Right.
then if you can't self-manage, then we're going to put some rules on you. So my son got a little rules put on him because he
Right.
has challenges self-managing. But the other two, one of my daughters read like 9 books in the week.
Right. Right.
So it's things like that where you see the situation different. We're not going to a lot of activities like we were before, but that doesn't mean that we're now going to totally let things go, right?
But that you brought up so many points. I know our time, but so many points about about discipline. You said self-manage, read books. Like you see, that's the culture that you're generating inside of your house. So your daughter, like to be an avid book reader. They say that once somebody graduates from college, they read less than 2 books for the rest. Like in doing that, if someone can read 9 books in a week, that's so then that way when she gets to college, those are things that they'll learn. Like in the Bible, it says a good man leaves a generation of wealth from her children's children. So that means that's something she can even pass down to her children. And then also in them reading, it says train up a child in the way that I'm going to say he or she should go, and when they get older they won't depart from it. So then she's going to continue to teach reading and then teach it generationally. She'll teach it to what she's doing now, she'll teach to her children.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah, this has been a really good episode. One of my favorite topics. I love being a dad. I know you love being a dad and being able to talk about what we're doing with our kids. So Thank you, everybody, for joining us on another episode of Set for Life Conversations with George. If you found value from what you've heard today, there's a couple of things we'd like you to do to help us serve you even better. As I mentioned earlier, if you have a question that you want to be answered, drop us that message. If you're interested in going deeper in any of the topics that George teaches about, one of the best ways actually to do that is from one of his books in the Ready, Set, Grow series. So there's a link to that in the show notes as well. If you want to learn about George, you can go to his website at George www.georgebthompson.com. Thank you once again for joining us, and we're excited to keep sharing more conversations with you. We are on this journey with you and feel like you're going to grow as we grow.
Good. And
Thank
then
you.
thank you. And please let us know if you'd like more topics also,
Yeah.
because this also with kids, Thomas, again, us teaching them how to invest money, in these areas. I would love to come back to do this. And also everyone, you're getting, Thomas is interviewing me, but I mean, his points are awesome that he's saying that he's doing with the kids, and also we have children at different ages, so he's hitting them at different ages. I want to make sure we also hit them at different ages. And Thomas told you what his middle name was, the Z. I always thought it was from T-Zilla. So that's what we're
That's
gonna
something you
get
didn't know
going.
about,
All
right?
right, gotcha. So no, we are here with you. We're gonna not only we're gonna make it through this, and we're not trying to survive. We're going to thrive through this. And there's there's great opportunities, and we're here with you. Please comment, let us know if there's more information or you have